Good afternoon. You're watching AB Live, a brand new news-based chat show in which we discuss topics ranging from business, news, politics, and so much more. On today's episode, we are discussing the UAE's job market, and with me in the studios, we have Deepak Ahuja from Nadia Global, and we have Kalam Al Samarrai from iRecruiter. Thank you so much for joining us here.
Thank you.
Thank you for inviting us.
So it's actually a very interesting combination that we have here today, because you are obviously from the traditional recruitment firm, and then we have iRecruiter, which is more online.
Absolutely.
So let's start with what you do, Kamal.
Me? Well, hi, thanks for actually inviting me to the show. I actually had a traditional recruitment company for many, many years. But recently, and where I spend most of my time now, is on a platform called iRecruiter, which I believe is the future of recruitment. It's taking everything that Deepak does and what I used to do and putting it online to make it more accessible to companies, not only locally, but there's more of a global platform.
All right, but you don't call yourself an online portal then, or do you?
Well, no, not really, because we, just like Uber does Uber call itself a taxi company, does Facebook call it social media, we are hoping to be the largest recruitment company that doesn't have any recruiters.
Okay.
Right, so that's what we're trying to go. We're trying to connect employers to recruiters through this platform.
All right. Great, that's a jab at you now. So tell us, Deepak, what do you do?
Right, so Nadia Global has been around from a very long time, 1983 to be precise. We've been in here for 36 years. We, in fact, are the only company in the Gulf to have recruitment and training under one roof, which is a huge advantage for us.
Okay.
In the last 36 years, we have placed almost 1 million people across 20,000 corporates that we deal.
Okay.
So our model is that we look for people for jobs, not the other way around.
Right.
And in our training division, we have got 70 different programs that we offer, right from HR to banking to Microsoft trainings, language training, soft skills. And recently, we have launched a new division called HR Solutions, where we provide HR departments of the companies with HR outsourcing options, HR policies, organization development, job descriptions, compensation, wage surveys. So that's a new initiative for us. In terms of Nadia, there were many firsts. So we were the first company in the Gulf to have a website for registration of jobs. We were the first one to be the Microsoft authorized training centers in the country.
Okay.
We were also known for a long time to be the company which has got full page ads in the Gulf News for situation vacant, and people still rate to us on that.
Our pages are available as well, just saying.
Yes, of course. In fact, of late, in the last 1 year, we have also made some movements in terms of partnerships. So we've tied up with some international brands who offer very specialized certification. So Nadia continues to be the pioneer. We have a great legacy to live on, and we definitely want to leverage that.
Great, definitely a lot of verticals that Nadia has under it. But right now, considering that your clientele, I'm assuming, will be quite different, considering you'll do it on different platforms, etc. So from what you've seen, especially in the last 2 years, can you give us an overview of the UAE's and Dubai's job market as of now?
Ooh. So basically, we've seen 2019 to be a more stable market for jobs. There are jobs in the country, but we've also seen employers looking inwardly for hiring. Only for the skills that they don't have is the exception being made. And as a result of that, there's not too much increase in packages offered.
Okay.
In fact, these days, switching of jobs is not for the 15-20% jumps that you would see in past years. It's more for job security, stability, career progression, flexible work environment.
Sorry, what do you mean by increase in packages being offered?
So in past, when the job hopping was common in this country, we used to see employees changing jobs every year with 15-20% increase in their packages, which is not the norm anymore.
Right.
It's come down to lower single digits.
And people aren't even expecting it now.
They're not expecting it, as I said. That's why they're now looking for more job stability, security, and career progression. How do they can grow in the company? That's what they're looking at. And there's a lot of emphasis on flexible work environment. So working from home is a convenience that a lot of people look at.
Okay. Yeah. So now, Kamal, what do you think?
Look, I have to agree with Deepak. I think the market stabilized. I saw most of in the traditional side of it, I saw most of the redundancies and job losses in 2017, early 2018. Things have started to stabilize now. The bad side of it is, and the honest, there's just not enough jobs right now.
Yeah.
In the market, there's really not enough jobs, and I know there's statistics about how many jobs are being advertised. but how many of those are actually real jobs? That's a different question altogether.
Yeah, I really want to ask you that
Yeah.
because we've been seeing all of these ads about 5,000 jobs available in the oil and gas sector, etc. So are you saying that basically that's not true? They're just blatant lies?
It's not blatant lies. It's how many of those jobs actually get filled, and I would say less than 40% of them.
Okay.
60% of these jobs just go on the market just because it's almost a whim. And I think we were discussing this a little bit earlier about the management coming in and saying, look, we need to hire 10 more salespeople, and he's putting out these job ads that go out, and then a week later, things have changed, revenue have changed, plans have changed, and these jobs just go sitting there without actually being hired.
Right.
I, in amazement, last week went to see a client, and one of the questions, this is a big client in the UAE, and one of the big questions they asked me was, well, how long do you own the candidate for?
Okay.
And I said, why are you asking me such a question? What's your process? They said, on average, our hiring process is about 7 to 9 months.
Right.
And out of our number of jobs that we actually put on, we're talking about maybe a 10 to 20% fill rate of these jobs.
Oh,
and
wow.
this is a big client in the UAE, and I'm not going to say who or mention any names, but that's the job market right now.
But again, so there you're talking about the slow recruitment process,
Absolutely.
which we have seen in this region.
Definitely.
So would you agree that the recruitment process in general as a culture of the job market is slow? Would you agree with that?
I think there are certain exceptions, but by and large, from almost 15,000 client base that Nadia has, we see not that kind of turnaround times of closures. In fact, we have seen some job closures in a matter of weeks. So it also depends on what the candidate brings on the table, because these days employers are also looking at somebody who can do multitasking. They're looking at experts, but also looking at people who can be flexible. So there's a new term called flexpertise that has come into picture, which is what is
interesting.
Which is what an employer is looking at. So, and plus with the advancement of technology, the fourth industrial revolution, they're also looking at people who have upgraded their skills. So traditional jobs gone, but there are new jobs available. So it's also a mix of what candidates can offer and what employers want. And I think the example quoted here was, yes, many a times employers will hire for a future projection. If those things don't work out that way, there's no point hiring and firing. So sometimes the job gets rolled back. But I don't see it's a major challenge in our area where we work. We have huge client base in terms of corporates who hire from us regularly.
Right.
And then we continue to see the steady market.
But that way, what is your opinion on the hiring and firing culture? Then you hire quickly, you fire quickly, depending on their performance. Is that all right then?
I think that's happening more on the roles which are target oriented, the sales role.
Okay.
Whereas when there are other roles, I don't think there's an immediate hire and fire. Most of the time, as I mentioned earlier, in the last 2 years, we've seen companies now looking inwards. So there's a mentoring program, there's a talent pool which is being created, which is where a lot of jobs come in. So yes, there are not too many jobs being advertised, but it doesn't mean there are not jobs.
Okay.
It's just they're getting filled up internally.
Right.
Yeah.
Interesting. So basically you're talking about upscaling then
Absolutely.
of what's happening internally.
Yeah, but can I just cut in? Filled internally means that there's no actual job, right?
No,
That's what I'm saying. You're getting one person that's doing your job to now do 2 possible jobs.
I think let's not forget that slow economic growth and job losses is common across the world. It's not a UAE phenomena. And I think companies, when they're stressed with their revenues which are flat or dropping, cost optimization is the name of the game. So I think we all run businesses, we all take similar measures.
I don't think this is a regional thing. I think this is I don't think this is an economic thing with the government. This is more to do with the companies and the way they run in the region, right? Where, let's say example in Europe, you'll go out there, you'll go for a job and you'll put in your application. Within 48 hours you'll have an answer. It doesn't matter what size of company. You're very lucky to have all these clients that are coming back to you this quickly.
Yeah.
But in my experience in the last 7 years, clients haven't come back to us at all in that quick. We might be lucky if we get a response in 2-3 weeks.
Right, so Kamal, I need to ask you then, why do you think they are sitting on these applications then?
I'll tell you what, look, personally for me, I think, and a lot of my clients are going to hate me, but a lot of HR departments are very weak here. I believe, and I've read this many times, you're meant to surround yourself with people that do really well, who know more than you and who are strong. I believe HR departments here almost are not considered serious departments from their management.
Okay.
They have a good HR director and everything else under that kind of let's keep the cost down, let's do it that way. So in that sense, when candidates come through to them, they're being passed on to these managers. There's no follow-up, there's no proper way of doing it, there's no HR follow-through. And I think that's where it's all falling apart.
Right.
On that side of it. So I believe there's a lot to do with the way the companies are structured internally and the way they're doing their hiring these days.
Right, and another very interesting thing that you did mention was about the demand, where again, so all the advertisements with the demands are there, but these jobs are not being filled.
Yeah.
But again, on the contrary, you also see a supply of job hunters. There are just so many job hunters, so many people looking for jobs in the country right now. So what is the gap here? So why is there such a mismatch? So do you say there is a parity between the demand and supply? There's no balance there?
I think a very, very good question. There is definitely a big mismatch across to what companies looking for in terms of skills and what are the skills that people are coming out. Let me give you a case in point example. There are many universities in UAE who offer the standard BCom and BBA courses. Now these are good, strong foundation laying qualification, but do they make a graduate employable? The answer is no, because in my previous industry, banking, I've tried many times to hire fresh graduates and they don't seem to have the employable skills. In fact, that was one of the key motivation for us to tie up with the Retail Banking Academy, which is the only academy in the world offering retail banking certification.
Okay.
So what we're trying to do here as Nadia, which has always been in the forefront, is that bring in those certification program, make the candidates more employable, and then go to the bank. So we have a recruitment and training division and it works very well. In fact, RBA international partnership was very unique for us because it's a body which is accepted in 100 countries. They've been in existence for 7 years, and they now partner with Nadia exclusively for the entire Middle East.
Right.
And in the last 8 weeks, we've seen a significant amount of interest coming in. We've almost got 100 inquiries for people who want to do those courses because they want to make themselves employable. I think summer is the right time for many people to look at those certification programs because there's holidays and you can stop traveling, which most people don't do today, pick up a course like that. On similar lines, we identified a gap in insurance education.
Okay.
If you look at the insurance industry here, they always struggle to get the right skills. And that's where our partnership with the Insurance Institute of India, which is a Government of India body established in 1954, is very, very significant because this is the first time Insurance Institute of India has tied up with a private company, which is a big validation for Nadia that we are a recognized name. Now, we are going to represent Insurance Institute of India in UAE, not just for the courses, but we are their official examination center. We will be representing them in the regulator and seminar. So I think there is a gap, which to answer your question, and each industry has to be looked after. So there could be specific certification vocational programs which are designed to fill the gap.
Yeah.
So this is where the mismatch is coming. The graduates coming in with the foundation level qualification, not good enough for them to be employed. And Nadia has already taken a leap on that direction.
All right, great. So again, so now because of this, the talent skill gap, the demand gap.
For me, the gap's different than that. Sorry, but for me, the gap is different. For me, the gap comes from what employers are expecting and what they're willing to pay for versus what's available in the market. Employers right now are expecting someone to be at this level, but they want to pay this much for them. Right. And candidates in the market, when they go in for interviews with those skill sets, are not matching this, but matching the salary level.
Right.
And that's the big problem that I see with employers right now. They believe they have control of the market. The amount of times I hear from employers saying, oh, the market's weak, we can pay them, as you said earlier, not that increase, we can pay them what they want, and they should be happy that we're offering stability and whatnot.
Yeah.
For me, and we said this earlier, most people that are not in the market anymore are out. I've left the country. So who is here? People that are stable, people that have jobs.
Yeah.
So how are you going to expect them to leave what they have, where they have in mind, and go to an unknown entity for no difference in salary,
right,
or no difference in title, because you believe that the market's weak?
Right.
So that's the gap.
All right, so let me ask you then that probably over here in this region, for whatever you said, so do you think employers are trying to recruit people from other countries where the labor expectation or the expectation from the employees aren't as high, which is why the people who remain in this country are basically not without a job or without a job?
Go on.
I think this has always been the case. UAE has been a very, very attractive market for employees from other countries. But what is changing now, and this is a very important paradigm shift, that initially people would come to UAE for a short term of 2 to 4 years, make money and leave. But now of late, thanks to the government policies where you can have have long-term visas, you can buy property. I think the whole paradigm has shifted. Now we have people in UAE who come for longer tenure, 7, 8, 10 years. I think the other aspect you need to look at it, and I'm coming back to the point my friend made here.
I'm sorry, so just on that line, so you're talking about the 10-year visas, etc., which are the new rules that have been introduced here. But again, those are for investors, those are for the higher management level.
No, I'm coming to that. I'm coming to that. See, what happens is it starts somewhere and then it trickles down. So while 10-year visas are only for investors, but 5-year visas are also available for senior executives of companies, which is officially announced. But let's look at the paradigm shift. People who were coming to this country in 1980s, 90s, they were all here for 2-year contract. Now you don't hear that anymore. I mean, we interview people, they want to have a long-term employment, they're looking at 5 to 7 year horizon. The other thing is, in past, UAE was a market where people wanted to earn and save a lot of money and send back home. Now that has to change because UAE is now about lifestyle. It's about safety, security. And I think the government has done enough to make people realize this could be their home, this could be a second home. And I think this is where the change in the perceptions and thought process of employees is important, because if we compare that, this was a booming market in 2003, 4 and 5, and again 10, 11, 12, 13, where you could get 15, 20% jump every time you change job. That's not the case anymore. So we keep comparing ourselves with the best of the times, but let's look at what's happening globally. I mean, as I mentioned, economic slowdown is the reality. It's not just, so you can't change that. And it's might as well better to get realistic and expect jobs which give you stability. Because we spoke about hiring, firing. You don't want to get a job which pays you 25% more today, but after 3 months you don't have the job.
All right, so I agree with the point where you said that they want to live in Dubai, they want to work here, but the condition here, the economic instability isn't really allowing that. If I may be bold to say that the job security at this stage as of 2019 and 2018 and 2017 has been low. So what about that? Kamal, would you like to take this?
Put me in an awkward situation. Look, I don't see why, and I agree with you, but I don't see why candidates can't ask for an extra 10% or 20%.
They can.
It's their right.
Yeah, they can.
But employers don't want to pay.
They don't want to pay. Yeah, because
and that's the problem.
No, but there's enough talent available in the market. And the second
thing... But they're leaving. They're leaving. And this is the problem right now for me, is that clients are, and I said this earlier, clients are trying to get those people to come in, and they're not willing to offer them. So what do these people do? In the end, they're like, well, I've been in the same job for the last 5 years. No one's going to give me a 10% or 15% increment on what I'm earning. So what do I do? What do I do then?
I think
go back to my home country, or do I stay?
Yeah, I think, as I mentioned, employees have to be realistic. The market is changing. The dynamics are different now. I think there are more, single people in the market, younger people in the market today. Whereas in the past, you had expat packages where companies used to pay for children education and all those things. So it's changed, because if as a business owner I can get somebody who doesn't ask for all this, I would definitely want that, because everybody in the business is for making money.
Right.
Yeah, and when my revenues are not increasing, they're flat or they're reducing, the only way to make more money for the business or for the stakeholders is to reduce your cost, and human cost, as we know, is the highest. I'm not saying that we need to start letting go of good people, but if you can see the talent available and get somebody who can do the job. I spoke about multitasking. It's also up to the employees and candidates in the market to upgrade their skills. They should be flexible to do different jobs at the same time.
But do they stay there? I'll give you a prime example. I have a client who has a very, very good HR manager, came in as a HR manager. Very, very experienced, 20 plus years experience, got the salary package they want. But then the employer started handing little other departments to go under her preview. So marketing might have gone under there, and IT. You don't have to be technically skilled in it, but you have to look after it as part of your responsibility, because they tried to save cost. What does she do? 7 months later, she's like, well, hang on a minute. That's not what I want to do. That's not what I signed up for.
No, I think that's one example, but the other example, again, I can give from banking industry, is that in past, banks used to have separate verticals looking after clients for wealth management, for credit card, for personal loan, and for other services. Today, you see the merge of that. There's one relationship manager who's one window for all the client's requirements. So he goes to the client, it takes care of all the personal requirements. So the way it is turned around and presented to both the parties involved is also important. Now, that's another extreme example that you quoted, but I've seen that happening most of the time in various industries. I mean, it's not very uncommon to see today somebody who's at the reception when you enter, also coming and taking notes in their meeting and also making a cup of coffee.
Right.
Yeah, so
That's obviously ideal, but then there's also risk from the employer's point of view, right? When you're training, when you're mentoring, again, like Kamal just asked, what if they don't stay? What if they take all the skills and they run away? So that is a risk over here for the employer.
I think this is a very important aspect, that if you are scared about your employees leaving and you don't train them, try not to train them.
Right.
And see the difference.
That's a lot of contradiction there then.
But I think what you're saying happens more in local companies versus multinational companies. As someone who goes into a multinational company as a HR manager is a HR manager. Someone who goes into a local company as a receptionist is a receptionist, is a secretary, is a team, is this, is that, is that.
On the ground realities,
the verticals don't.
On the ground realities could be different. I've seen multinationals having somebody who's on the reception also taking notes and serving.
But so now essentially we're kind of getting into the cost that the company has to incur while recruiting people, etc. But now let me get to your business model then. So you claim to be providing all of these services for a lower cost. How is that?
Exactly. So because I run a traditional recruitment company, I know the costs associated with it. Right, and that's not just here. That's globally. You've got to have an office. You've got to have people working there. And you've got to be paying your bills. And while I'm paying out commission to your recruiters, what my new model says is, well, hang on a minute. Why do we have to have all that? Why can't an employer have the ability to go onto a platform, onto a marketplace, post a job completely for free, and be able to work with freelance recruiters? And because they're freelance recruiters, they set the rate that they're willing to work at, rather than have a company tell you, right, you have to earn so much and do so much to stay in the game before you get fired, or you're not making enough money.
Right.
So because of this, recruiters are going on there and saying, well, hang on a minute, I'm not doing much right now. I'm saying I don't have many roles on. I can bid 8% for the role. Another recruiter might come on and say, hang on, I'm doing even less. I'm going to bid 7% to do this role.
Right.
And so we've created a real marketplace to make this happen. So it makes it accessible to employers as well to go on there, SMEs as particular, where they're going to go on and say, well, hang on a minute, I can't afford to pay 15% to get 15% of the annual salary to hire a candidate. I'm going to go onto LinkedIn, I'm going to post a job, I'm going to go to Bait and post a job, and I'm going to spend the time going through all that. Well, hang on a minute, now we're giving you an alternative solution where you can go on and use a recruiter for the fee that you're willing to pay.
All right, but you're essentially a startup, so where exactly is your money coming from then?
So we take, like Uber, like all these, we take a commission from the fee of the recruiter when it's placed. So we, as with traditional recruitment models, mostly, you charge the client on the day the candidate starts to work with you. So that's what we do on this model as well. When the candidate starts to work with the employer, we send an invoice to the employer. We collect the money as iRecruiter. This is the main thing that we do. We collect the money and we hold it in escrow for up to 90 days. So the employer can make sure that the candidate is what they hired and what they're paying for more essentially. And then after 90 days, we release the fee back to the recruiter and we take a little cut from that.
Understood. All right, great. So now again, coming back to the demand and supply, as of now, as of 2019, we're in the second half already, who would have thought. But what are the major jobs that are in demand, or the sectors that are actually looking to hire people? And I use the word actually and I mean it.
Yeah, I think
it's
a very good question. I think we need to look at how technology has impacted our lives today. I think industries are also accepting technology. So let me give you a couple of examples. Starting with banks, they're now looking at automating all their delivery channels. Also, certain internal processes with blockchain. Retail industry is thinking about e-commerce because that's where people want to buy today. F&B industry is now getting traction on the cloud kitchen and delivery platforms. So because of the adoption of technology, there are new jobs that are coming in. So we have had inquiries for the chief innovation officer, SEO specialist, digital marketing specialist, big data scientist. These are the new job trends that are coming in on the back of the demand from the technology. I think it's very important to look at these certain initiatives taken by the UAE government. So the Ministry of Happiness that was launched a couple of years back, it has given companies a perspective that they don't even just have to look at the customer happiness, but they have to also look at the employee happiness. And we have seen certain job titles like Chief Happiness Officer and people and cultural specialists.
Yeah.
So these are some of the new jobs that we're seeing. We're also seeing a lot of jobs in construction industry to continue to happen. We've seen some jobs in the auto mechanical segment. So these are the sectors which are hot in terms of job market today. And interestingly, because of certain new industries like Dubai Parks open, we recently had a vacancy for park manager.
All right, interesting. So again, so you mentioned technology is definitely a key element right now.
Yeah.
But also what we've noticed is because of the technical skill gap in the region, so where we don't have a lot of people or an oversupply of people with the technical know-how, that is also being outsourced. So do you see that as a problem?
I think I mentioned earlier that the companies are fully aware of the technological developments and they are investing in their human capital. So I've seen a lot of companies coming to us saying, can you train our employees on blockchain? Can you train our employees on digital marketing? And because we have a training and recruitment arm under one roof, this has been a big advantage for us. So we run public programs offering those skills gaps, which you just mentioned. We also offer it in-house to the corporates.
Right.
That's how we are trying to bridge the gap. I mentioned about banking and insurance. We are in talks with two other similar entities where we'll fill in the gap which is existing in the market. So at this point of time, yes, there could be some gaps, but very soon in the next couple of years, you will see that local resources will be fully trained and available in the market.
All right, so inshallah that happens. Hopefully if that happens, that's great. But again, now we see terms like artificial intelligence, there's digital transformation, all of these really fancy terms being thrown around. But again, so Kamal, coming to you, do you think optimum utilization of all these emerging technologies is happening by industries and by companies in the UAE?
Oh, it's definitely happening. It doesn't mean that it's the right thing to be doing. Right, and I've seen a lot of startups here and globally that are getting funded because they have AI. And what that does, in the recruitment industry I'm talking about, I'm not talking about others, in the recruitment industry, for me, I'm not a big believer in AI being a function of itself. You need the human element in recruitment, always.
Right.
And I just think there's no way around that. There's, people can, you have AI that looks through CVs and takes out keywords. Well, anyone can write a CV, and there are people that write CVs. You can have the interview where the AI looks at the face patterns. Well, anyone can be calm and facing a computer and talking to it rather than a panel of people sitting in an office.
Right.
So the AI is there, it's a function, but this is what iRecruiter does. iRecruiter says, well, hang on a minute. Forget about all these AI, forget about all these functions. We want the human-to-human interaction to continue.
Right.
And we are facilitating that. And that's what I believe in, that the human-to-human is there, and the artificial intelligence and all these other things are a support function to that.
All right, do you agree?
I think I agree to a certain extent. I think artificial intelligence will definitely help in the initial phase of recruitment, but at the end of it, you need a human touch always. I mean, I always ask the question to my client that do you need the best person for the job, or you need somebody who's the smartest CV writer? Because that's what people do today. They engage somebody to write CVs, and you need somebody to meet them, filter them. So Nadia Global has a robust in-house process where we get all those data from job portals and we meet the candidates. We only present the top 3 or 5 which we feel meet the criteria in front of the client. So the value added by Nadia, or the human touch that we have, is invaluable, and we continue to see the value of that from the clients as well.
Okay, great. But I also think that independent employers are also giving a lot of importance to all of these fancy terms like artificial intelligence, etc. For example, I was with a particular construction company, and the construction industry is talking about transforming into AI and machine learning and all of that. But at this juncture, when there is accessibility of inexpensive labor from the neighboring countries, etc., would people or would companies really want to move towards AI and the implementation of AI at this point?
I think the UAE government has always been pioneer in terms of technology and looking forward. So I think 3D printing, I mean, we have seen buildings in UAE which are 3D printed. So it's not just about the availability of cheap labor, it's also about the use of technology and doing things faster.
Okay.
You can still have a brick and mortar building which is built by a worker, but you can have something which is much faster and more efficient with the AI and the 3D printing scenario.
Then in that scenario, is that a threat to jobs?
Oh, well, everything's a threat to jobs, but the human race just continues to evolve, right? And figure out new things.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, great. So I think, unfortunately, it's time to wrap up right now, but I am going to ask you just one last question, which is what more do you think needs to be done, or what needs to be done to improve the recruitment process in the region right now, given the market situation?
If I could say one thing, it would be respect for candidates' times from within the HR. If companies in general could start to respect employees' times or candidates' times, I think that would make a huge difference to the market.
All right.
Huge difference.
All right, speeding up the process, definitely.
In my view, I think both sides, the employer and the candidates, they need to be aware of the market realities. Skill development is key. And I keep on saying that people should be ready to do multitasking. There should be flexpertise, as I said earlier, people who have expert but also willing to do multiple things. So this is the need of the hour.
Okay.
I mean, the days of having one person doing only one particular job, I'm not saying somebody can do multiple jobs, but there are certain jobs which overlap and you should be ready for that. In terms of the overall recruitment process, I think, as I mentioned, technology will play a big role, and Nadia is fully aware of integrating technology in our recruitment process. So we are at a very advanced stage of discussion with one of the companies out of UAE, and watch the space. We have some very exciting announcements to come.
All right, great. So, but again, we're not expecting complete automation of the process.
Not at all. I think, as I mentioned, human touch, which is what Nadia's strength is, will always be there.
All right.
I want to come work for you.
More than welcome.
But again, in closing, I'd just like to ask you, I know I said that was the last question, but is there reason for people to be hopeful in this job market right now? I think this is one question that all my viewers want to know.
Absolutely. I think there is enough being done in terms of initiatives from the government, from the private sector. I've lived in this country for almost 23 years, and there's always hope. I mean, we all have seen, like especially Nadia, we've been here for 36 years, so we have seen 2 Gulf wars, we've seen 3 recessions, we've seen oil prices fluctuation. There's always hope here, definitely.
How about you? What do you think?
It's tough.
In all honesty.
It's tough. It's tough.
It's tough.
I don't. I think it's going to be a while before we see a new wave of jobs come through.
All right.
I think companies start growing again. I think all the initiatives being done right now are going to trickle through, and it's going to start to work, but there's still time needed.
It is going to take time. But anyway, thank you so much, Kamal, for joining us. Thank you, Deepak, for joining us here.
Thanks.
Great discussion. We've received a lot of valuable insights from you guys. And thank you for watching AB Live. We will be back again next Tuesday.
Thank you very much. Thank you.